I'm Nikki McClure, and I'm from Olympia, Washington, and this is my third show here at Giant Robot, something like that. We can't quite remember. But my pathway that led me to here to this day right now. Oh, there's someone maybe who wants to come in.
Oh, they could.
Yeah, you could leave the door open. I think that's cool.
All good job.
Okay. Was one that I didn't ever think I'd be in LA having an art show. But here I am. I studied science in college. I went to the Evergreen State College and I studied science. And the day that I showed up there, the person that took my photo for my photo ID, for my student ID, was Candace Peterson from K Records. She was the one who actually took my photo. And I didn't really know that at the time. But my whole life I kind of was drawn to Olympia. I was this teenager who had kind of started hanging out with the kind of nerdy punk rock kids, and this guy, he took me to this punk rock show at Green River Community College, and it was Human and Mr. Epp, which later became Green River, which then became Mudhoney and the family tree of Seattle rock. And it was the first time in my life I saw live music, and it was this cacophonous, crazy, not like any music I'd ever seen or heard. I was really into like Judas Priest, like total like show rock, and at that moment I was just thinking today like how like seeing people make that kind of music made me realize that I could make music, and if I could make music, I could make books. And if I can make books, I can make my own images, make my own like posters and WPA kind of project for this world. And if I could do that, I could like build a house. I built a house with JT a couple years ago. And if I could do that, I could like make my own family of not just people I'm related to, but a community of people that I cared about. And if I could do that, I could just make my own living that was outside of the world of cubicle and computer, and I didn't have to become a bank teller or something like that. I could just exist and create my own world by first off seeing people make their own music. And I think that kind of has led me here, because when I first started coming to LA, I was touring with a band called Kicking Giant and Tattletale, and we played at UCLA, played at Jabberjaw, places like that. And it would just be me standing in front of you right now, singing songs and playing percussive parts of my body and using a guitar. Eric was just asking me, like, did you ever play guitar? And I was like, well, I use the guitar. I play guitar. And that's how I met Eric. And then kind of that's how I've come here to Giant Robot. But when I was there getting my picture taken by Candace Peterson, I really was drawn to Olympia because of K Records. And I always just I knew that the shows in Olympia were going to be so much better, like 230 times better than the shows in Seattle. They just had to be. But nobody would ever drive me down there. I didn't have a car. I was living in my grandma's attic because my mom was a romantic and moved off to the San Juan Islands, and I refused to go. And I wanted to stay at my school, so I lived in my grandma's attic, and I went to punk rock shows. And I just, I'm kind of rambling now, but I didn't know you could just be an artist quite yet. Like, I knew I could make things, but I thought you had to like get a job still, so I decided I'd be a scientist. And I studied botany. This here is kind of evidence of that. This is a salmonberry blossom, which is blooming right now, the bright fuchsia pink. And in the background, up in the top corner, eagles mating. This is the 5th year in a row I've seen eagles mate. I'm not particularly an eagle voyeur, but I just have to be in the right place at the right time. Which is, I think, I'm trying to go for the world record of eagle mating sightings length of time. So I studied science. I started like noticing though that all the art kids, they gotta sleep in after the punk rock shows. Their art classes didn't start till 11. Science classes start at 8 o'clock sharp, and then you fall asleep at 9 o'clock. So I went to Evergreen, and I just being and seeing all these artists and seeing all these people. Like there was Calvin Johnson making cassettes in his own bedroom and kind of creating this music empire. And there was Stella Mars, who was like making her own postcards and cards. I don't know if you guys know who she is, but she would take images from the 50s and sort of merge them with text and go around the country. At first she would just kind of have this suitcase and she just made cards and like would show up in this white jumpsuit at stores, would open her suitcase and say, would you like to buy some cards? And she was able to make a living and not compromise herself. And I saw these people doing that and I said, you know what? I want to do that. Like, I can do that. And so I started making things. I started just making art. And some of my early work was just record covers for friends. And that happened to be Slater Kinney or the Crabs. And then I really, one day I decided I wanted to make a book. And I made this book. Because you can only make, record covers so long. You have to make a book. And so I made this book, Apple. And as I was trying to figure out how to make it, my friend Taewon Yu, who was in Kicking Giant, he says, why don't you cut it out of paper? And so I cut this picture out of paper. And then I was like, well, what happens next? And then you find the apple. And then you start making it into pie. And I didn't storyboard it. I just started following one thing after another. And then I made this book and I ran off to Kinko's and copied it off and hand-colored it in with crayon, punched holes in it, and I went to a bookstore. One of them was Reading Frenzy in Portland, and I said, hey, do you want to buy this book? It's $5. She said, okay, I'll take 2 of them. I was like, yes, I can go make more copies now. $10. And then I, use those $10 to make more books, like 30 more books, color them in with crayon, go and sell them somewhere else. And it just kept incrementally going like that. I think when people start projects now, they think like, okay, I have to make a book and it's got to look like this, it's going to have an embossed cover and hardbound, and it's going to be all like, and I'm going to print 3,000 of them and try to get distributed and all this stuff. But like at the time when I was making things, it just was really like I sold 2 books and that was amazing. And then you just immediately turn that money back into more books and just build it slowly going onward. So I did this, and then I had I also had an art show. I had all these pictures. They all sold out except for the one I saved for myself and the one I saved for my mother. And they were $50 each. People just went, just took them all. I was like, wow, not only am I going to make a book, but like people were interested in having these pieces as a part of their life. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to do another art show. And it was December, and the art show was January, and I still had no clue what to make. And so my friend Stella Mars said, why don't we make a calendar? And I was like, was it. And the thing about that was that, as an artist and as a maker and a creative person, you can make anything in the world, right? You can just make pictures of anything. There's so many things just in this room that you can make pictures of and stories that you could talk about. But in some ways, it's really hard to just give in everything. So the calendar gave me a box, and I was able to fill January and then February. Like it gave me the structure. And then out of that structure came everything. So I made the calendar, went to Kinko's, copied off 100, sold those, made another 100, sold those, made another 100, sold those. It was January 15th. Nobody needs a calendar anymore. I'm done. The next year, those 300 people said, where's our calendar? And I was like, I made a calendar. I don't need to make that again, right? They're like, no, we need it. And so I made it another calendar, and I've been making that ever since. And that was in 1998 that I started making a calendar. So these images are from that. And what I do is I take a piece of black paper, just plain Strathmore charcoal paper, I draw on it, and then I start cutting with a number 11 X-Acto knife. And the game that I always, even at the very beginning, was how to keep everything connected. I wanted one piece of paper, so this apple falling from the tree, how do I make it be connected? It can't just be an apple in space. I want to show it falling. But at first it was starting to look like a swing, apple in a swing. So I added, as I was cutting, I added these wind, motion, light. And that was just the game, the box I gave myself. Piece of black paper, knife, keep it all together. And it's kind of, to me, like art is a lot like math. You just are finding a creative solution to this problem of black paper. How do I make an image appear? And so I start removing things. And then voila, you have me sticking my tongue in a salmonberry blossom. It has very, very sweet nectar. It's incredible. I recommend it. Sometimes there's little beetles in there, but you pay them no mind. And this one's called Perfect. We have ferns where we live. We live in an ancient forest of ferns, and when the fiddleheads come up, it's kind of like you want to have a festival. And we inherited this land a little while ago, and it was covered in ivy, and we removed it all and planted it all with native ferns that we got from salvage projects, from places that were going to be bulldozed. And to transport them, you have to cut all the fronds off. So when they were just kind of these bare things, but when they came up, it was just this beginning of new life. Some of these ferns felt like they were like 50, 60, 80 years old. And so then I asked this young boy who has a band when he was like 10 years old to come and play fiddle to the fiddleheads. So he did, and then I made a picture. This one's called Delegate. I was distressing over the fact that I couldn't even grow rhubarb at the new place. All I could grow were horsetails, and because the slugs were eating the rhubarb. And then one day I walked up and there were these mallard ducks eating the slugs for me. And as I was cutting it, I realized I was looking at the pattern the slugs leave, and they were leaving Morse code. So there was Morse code message in there. And the word is not delegate. It's a D word that a slug would be writing. It's not a swear word. This one's forget. So in the process of this land renewal, there was a lot of pulling of blackberries, and I always forget how much I enjoy it. There's like this moment of truce with me and blackberries. It's about 4 weeks long when they're in fruit, but otherwise it's this kind of constant battle. And the root of the blackberry is called a blackberry brain. And this one I really like. You can't really see it very well in this picture, but there's this delicate little strand with the one blood drop on it. I try to do a lot of hands and feet because I want these people to be every people. I want them to be you. I want them to be me. I mean, there's so many amazing, incredible, beautiful kinds of people in this world, but the only one I have at my immediate disposal are my own hands and my own feet, really. So, but I want it to be everyone. I want people to feel some kind of primal connection to the picture and not feel alienated by it. This one's called Permit. This is us destroying, but giving ourselves permission to do so. Sidewalk shoes show up a lot. I should invite him over sometime. This one's Comprehend. This is after school's out, and the kids go in the forest, and they start playing in the tangle of root, and you wish that was school. And it is a schooling of sort. This one's called Good Luck. This is my, So this is my entomology background and botany background. There's a crab spider down here devouring one bumblebee who landed on that flower, but this bumblebee up here just happened to land on that flower. In the meanwhile, there's another story happening up top of I love you not. So that one's called Good Luck. This one's Lunch. I kept drawing people in it and then erasing them and drawing them and erasing them. So I just left the bowl and 2 forks. The forks are like this. All these pictures are the same size as these. They're 11 by 11. And once again, these.
So all the calendar pictures are 11 by 11?
Yeah. Then they frame really nicely and all. And I've had, it was nice. I had a show that the Museum of Contemporary Craft in Portland put together that toured around in some museums. And it was really amazing because as an artist, you're just focused on the picture you're making. And then every once in a while you get to see your work as like, this is 1 year of work for me. But to see 15 years of your work and to realize you're kind of telling the same, a story that continues through time that you didn't know you were telling in year 2, it alludes to year 14. And to see a story not just of my life, but just to see a story of a woman growing from being a young woman into a mother. And you don't see that story in a museum very often. But the cool thing was that they're all the same size. So they read, like you could kind of stand in one room and it was time passing. And I didn't know I was making that kind of art show. It was cool. This one's called Befriend, and this is the moment, I can't wait for it, it's going to happen really soon, where I step into the water. I live on the most southern part of Puget Sound. And you step in the water, and it's friendly. It's not cold anymore. And it just, in that moment, I just feel like I found an old friend of mine. And that feeling of joy of someone you haven't seen for a whole year. Because most of the summer I'm just in the water or picking berries. This one's called Depend. And he's kind of picking at her, but he's also kind of balancing. He was supposed to be balancing, but it also kind of reads that different. And this is just that balance that of the world that we're leaving our children, and how they're going to really need to work together. And it's going to be precarious, but perhaps they'll be savvy enough when they get to their shore to make do. This is Delight, because I was making a picture that I felt was really depressing. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to give everybody ice cream for this month. And this is actually a music festival that happens in Anacortes, Washington, called the Unknown Music Festival. This is Lois Maffeo. You guys know her? She was in a band called Courtney Love a long, long time ago, FYI. And they serve ice cream for the kids in the park during the music festival every year. This is Prepare. So this is, again, the series of giving the kids the tools to survive. And that includes lots of knife skills and boat making skills. And these are Mare's Tales, which I saw above your fair city today. Mare's Tales meaning a change in the weather, and rain. So may my Olympia energy bestow me some rain. Because I saw those Mare's Tales. This is Ache. I made this picture, and the thing with the calendar is I'm making pictures that have become the future. And people often tell me that I've foreseen their future. Like, how did you know? And so I made this picture, and it ends up that we actually went to Alaska this month. It was July of last year, and where the sun never really sets. And this picture is about the idea of sleeping outside, how great it's going to be, but the sun gets up really early. There's bears, but worse are mosquitoes.
Or black flies.
Or black flies, yeah. And more people die from mosquitoes than any other animal. Okay? Screen doors. And then there's a slug, too. This one's called Barter. It's that trading of time. Just give a kid the berries. You could take a nap. And then I really like pictures of kids with flags. So these are a troop of kids heading off into the woods with their flag. And who knows what trouble they'll get into doing that. This one's called Inhabit. And I like it. This is this hat, a Salish style hat that a woman made me, or JP had made for me for Mother's Day. And it's the perfect hat. It's like shade and cooling tower. So those are smart people. And I'm gathering apple twigs to burn in a fire for our food. This one I did for a cover for Prepare. And once again, child with the flag of surrender. parents getting off in another direction. There's often that kind of pull, like giving your children time and space to make their own decisions and to explore, make their own explorations. And the kid just wants to go join the fox. And this plant is salal, which grows everywhere where I live. And this is the picture that was inside the calendar. This one's called Abandon. And where the fox is it? And this tree appears in a drone which sheds its skin. And so it's kind of a skin. It's a very skin age calendar in that year. This one's called Foster. This is my child's first school. They got to do things like this, and so I made a picture to kind of just remember that world of fort building and sticks and sticks and sticks and sticks and sticks and sticks. I alternate either between wanting to just fill something with complete detail and then also just letting the paper remain black and solid. Another favorite pastime is chanterelle hunting. Have you guys ever mushroom hunted before? Magic. They glow. The forest is black, dark underneath, and they're glowing. Like there's these little lantern lights.
There's also jack-o'-lantern mushrooms that actually do glow.
There are some that really do glow.
Those are poisonous.
And this one's just called Age. This one's a brie. Once again, foretelling the future is I really just wanted my son to see an owl that year. So I'll make a picture of it, and then therefore it must happen. And it kind of did. Not that owl. This is a northern saw-whet owl. They're only about this big.
No, smaller. No, I think you can't get it.
There. This one's called Start Over. This tree fell down in the ice storm. After I took a picture and then it fell down, and then I made a picture of it because it no longer existed, that nest. This one is called Stay. Barnacles, stay put. They find their spot and they stay. I was into barnacles a lot. I think I'm making a book right now that still has a little bit of barnacles because I promised to do the book when I was in the barnacle stage, and now I'm having to do the barnacles, and I think I'm done with barnacles, okay? I moved on. Oh, and then that one felt too lonely, but I liked it for the cover, so I made this one for the cover because it didn't feel so lonely. This one's called Make Plans, and it's hazelnut cactus and all the pollen. And sometimes you just gotta make plans that way. Just make thousands of them, and then you'll have the one or two that become your tree, and make enough nuts to feed your family. This one's a very mysterious one. People had a lot of questions about this one when it was up. What in the hell are they carrying? Giant slug, one little kid suggested. Dead body.
Someone got right.
All these things, like dead deer. But it's a body of moss. When there's moss on these trees, when branches fall during storms, there's this huge thing. And I printed it green on green. And we just find these giant, incredible mats of moss and give them a relocation.
So where are they putting? Or where are they?
We're carrying it and going to put it in a safe spot.
I know, it's alive still?
It's alive. Yeah. Instead of like on the road or on a path,
I see.
we pick it up and.
I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Yeah, I realized this is
You can tell which people this is.
well, that's the thing, like, you know, like, it's like, my life gets a little bit more and more individualized, and my personal experience, I realized not too many people have done this. There's 3 people in this room that have done it, though, so that's a pretty high percentage in this room. But if you only ever see those 3 people, you think that 100% of the people in the world have done this. But no, I think we're the only ones that have ever done it. But this is what my world looks like in January. But if you imagine all what's black is this incredible moss green, because everything's just covered in moss. It's moss's moment. Once the leaves are gone and the rain's hitting, it just is this electric. This picture is called Vibrate. It becomes this just incredible color of green. This one is We Are All Starlight. And they're all made of the same matter that came from that giant star explosion. But the black, contrasted with that one with all that sticks and stuff, it's just nice to sometimes just have the paper be this solid weight of comfort and eternity. This one's called Honor, and ultimately it's about a flock of 100 cormorants that were outside our place, and I just felt like I just had to go down and just witness it, because I feel like the seabird populations are just crashing, and this could be my last chance to see 100 cormorants together. And so I went down, I was there, but it's also, oh my god, a really bad wasp sting from sitting on the outhouse. So I had to go ice myself in the water. That's the secret story. This is removing all that ivy. It's called Inherit. And I was going to fill in that space. That was where the title was. I was going to fill it in with more ivy, but I kind of like that there's this mysterious uncovering. There's something there that you don't quite know, or you can make it up in your own mind what that person's going to discover. It could be some darkness. It could be something really exciting and bright. Gloves. I like gloves. This one's called Support. And where I live now, there's these two cedar trees that grow next to each other.
Kind of merged together.
Yeah. And sometimes your kid's not very happy. And maybe you offer work, maybe you offer a book. And you just as a family are supporting each other. But maybe all the kid really needs is just to hang out with the tree. And there's a brown creeper, a little bird creeping up the edge, trying his best to cheer up everyone. This one's called Summon. And I had this friend, her name's Naya, and she had this beautiful purple coat, like one of those really long ones. I think I had one when I was little with a fake fur. And I was like, will you pose for this picture for me? And she said, sure. And so she did. And we make bows and arrows sometimes for like art shows and craft fairs. The ABC company, the Arrow Bow Company, and this is the rainbow. And I shouldn't be saying that in LA because someone's going to like make it into $1 million fair. But the rainbow, we put a logo, rainbow up there. And so we sold them, and she got one. And the girls just loved the bows and arrow sets. Like, they just went crazy for it. So she posed for it. And I put her with these alder trees and violets. And then her family, when I showed them the picture when I was done, I said, did you know her middle name's Violet? I was like, no, I didn't know that. But I did know. Art can be really, I want to use the word magic, but I don't think it's necessarily magic. I think it's just this intuitive connection that transcends our known world and our logic of our brain. But it's there if you're open to it. And sometimes pictures, in making them, I don't know why I made them, but a year later, the reason becomes apparent. This one was pretty quick. This one's called Save. And this leaf was kind of getting lost, so when I printed it for a calendar, I printed it red. And I was like, what's a red flag mean? And I looked it up and it's like, imminent danger, evacuate the beach. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense for this picture. And there was this piece of cedar bark on the beach that had this knot in it, and I wove this headband for Finn, and he was wearing it, and he kind of looks like kind of Cyclops or something.
We got a piece of sea glass.
Oh yeah, and we put a piece of sea glass. Is that?
Sorry, that was me.
Okay, because I have that same hunting call too. It's the bugle call, it's the Robin Hood. And then thinking of foretelling the future, this was the month that we went to Japan, and I was like, oh no, please don't let it be a giant wave. I was really worried, but we were safe. That one time. So let's save. I'm trying to save this world that you've made. No matter what, even though there's this giant wave coming behind you, you're still trying your hardest because you still care and you still love this thing that you've made. So you do your best. Is that all? That may be all. And so my work is very much my life. It's what these things here I have lived and I have done. And I kind of work from a range of like my own muscle memory of doing something or an action, and then I'll often stage or redo shots of that, like kind of dress up even and have JT stand on a ladder and take pictures of me doing stuff, or I'm kind of doing that. Or I'm working from direct pictures, but oftentimes a photograph doesn't convey your whole memory of that experience. There's this emotional memory, and so by then making a picture of it, I'm able to get that fuller breadth of that experience that I feel inside me. So in a way too, these are just my personal family snapshots. This is the family, the story that I am making, because I kept giving myself permission to do that, because I saw that punk rock band. I know I can make that story. I know I can make that life, and I can do it myself. Which is also kind of why I'm standing in front of you guys right now. Is hopefully maybe if you see, here I am, just a person. I brush my teeth, I sweat. I go eat Dole Whip down the street, but I'm making these pictures and I'm making this world, and maybe you can give yourself the permission to start making your world and making your story and sharing it with the rest of us, because you're an incredible person who probably does really interesting, curious things, like carry moss or licks salmonberry flowers, or watch eagles mate. Like, you have your own peculiarity, I know it, and it's probably really fascinating. So, share it. That's all I really want to say to you today. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah. I have two questions. So, you title a lot of your work in words, and I just wanted to know, like, what's your top 5 favorite words you connect with? And also, what's your morning routine?
Okay, top 5 favorite words. It changes. I like pre-words, like prepare. Prepare. Is there another pre-word?
Presumptuous?
No. Prerequisite? No. No, prepare. Hope. Hope is always one that has carried my heart forward. Courage, too. That one definitely is a forward motion. And those I've had written really big on my wall in my studio. I've had no written really big on my studio, too. No, period. Not no, maybe, or no, call me back next month, or no, ask me in 3 years. But no, period. But that's not really a word I would use. Ones I'm working with right now are respect, need. I like rewords. I have a dictionary, and I often read it throughout the day as I'm making my sketches and when I start actually cutting it out, I keep the sketch near me and I have this running list of words, and it's like just like going down the rabbit hole kind of list of words. Each word leads to the next word, and as I follow the etymology of the word and its multiple meanings, and I get there. Like thrill. Thrill is also a pulse. To the thrill inside is to give you pulse in life. So this picture is going to be January 2016, and I called it Thrill. And it's also kind of trill, or a sound. It has a sound element to it as well. And so that. And then my morning routine is I wake up, I go and hang out with my kid in bed for a while, and JT makes breakfast for us and calls us like 10 times to get out of bed, telling us it's ready. And then we have breakfast. They'll have French toast or pancake, and I'll have like granola or like an egg. And then JT takes Finn to school, and I go take a walk. And I take a walk, and then when he comes back from taking Finn to school, he picks me up on the road. So I just go as far as I can, and then he picks me up. And we both drive back home because we both work at home. He builds furniture, and I go down in the basement and do my work. So that way, it's nice because we arrive at work at the same time. Whereas if I had just stayed home, I would just walk down 12 steps and sat down. So it gets my blood going, and I see things like I see this in the morning, or I'll see the eagles, or there'll be some kind of interaction with the world. And I'll see the people drive by, or the bike guy, and I'll say hi to them. And I have some kind of human interaction too. However, it's kind of a quiet place. It's not like here. There's maybe a few cars. And then I'll sit down and I'll start to work. And usually I leave work when I'm most excited about a piece. So I come back and I'm excited to return and sit down and work on it. The hardest times to go to work are in between projects, and when we're both makers, there's JT right here on the hat that I keep referring to, and so when we both are in between projects, there's a bit of grumpiness in the house, but in that sense of grumpy boredom, it's like he also has that tendency too, like you break through and then you're so happy when you're like, get your idea and you start, like you're just galloping, you're not just stuck in the manure yard anymore, you're just like, you can run, and it feels really good. So that's and then we have lunch together because we work together, and we take another walk, and then I go back and I kind of start petering out and do emails and that type of that work, which I try not to do too much of because I just want to make art. I don't want to sit in front of a computer. Or I want to be outside. I want to get my fingernails dirty. And then Finn comes home from school, I go and get him. And then have 5 minutes with the other parents. This is my social time. And then we just hang out and do whatever happens. And kind of spontaneity prevails, which I like. I love it when people come over just unannounced. FYI. Instant party. I feel comfortable just saying to this number of people. Olympia, Washington. I'm in the phone book. Yeah.
This one's from online.
Oh.
Believe it or not, sorry. This has been streaming.
Oh,
There's a few So someone named Spam Mitsubi, who's watching from Hawaii,
Aloha.
asks if paper tears during cutting process, how does she manage it?
Oh, well, I either live with it, or every once in a while, I will use a little dab of glue, I will confess, because sometimes it's just too, but oftentimes I just live with it. Paper doesn't really tear as much as overcut something. And the way I compensate for that is, cut it large and then scale it down. And each line I kind of decide which weight I'm going to give it, Is it going to have this isn't a very good example, but like a thin weight, kind of in the lines of the coat. So if it's thicker or thinner, like how much shadow and how much weight do I give a line, I can kind of shade it away. And sometimes things happen, I don't know what happened to the rest of her here, but whatever. And there's a lot of these that were cut off and gone, but nothing's perfect. In this whole world, nothing is perfect. And I don't even know if in LA there's a perfect person, though some people are trying to become perfectly. But we all have our imperfections. And I realized this early on, when I was drawing, I would draw an insect all week. And then I was trying to make a perfect representation of this one fly. And the fly had a broken wing. the fly is not perfect. So why am I wasting my time? So by doing a knife, a lot of imperfections happen. By drawing with a knife, and I accept that. And in some ways I collaborate with the knife, like I draw the lines and then the knife cuts the lines. And they aren't necessarily the same things. And I like that. I like the chance. I like the danger of not, and I like accepting the fact that I will not be perfect. Every cut I make. I like that. So I don't even do much touch-up with computer, the work. I mean, sometimes I'll do like a little nib, or the computer will read it weird, whereas the original is something, so we'll touch it up that way, but like I try to keep things pretty pure to the mistakes. Because that's why I'm doing it. It's punk rock. It's not, I'm not Judas Priest. Not that they were ever perfect. Or are perfect, at least.
From drawing to cutting, how long does an average piece take? What a counting piece?
Well, drawing to cutting. Thought process takes a long time. Things incubate back there a long time, and then I'm given the moment to do it. And sometimes it's really just a week a picture. I just am like boom, boom, because that's all the time I have. I don't have forever. And I have a deadline that I want to meet. I self-published a calendar, so there was a little bit of wiggle room. But now, I want to have summer break too. Like I'm an artist. Damn it, I get summer break too. So I try to cut it, but this year I don't think I'm going to make it for summer break. I think there'll be some waking up early and getting work done and working till noon. But physically too, I can't cut too many hours a day because I was starting to get really issues with my arm, and so I kind of treat myself more as an athlete. I do lots of stretches, lots of massage work when I'm really working on projects, and also now I don't work with my neck like this. I have a tilted board, which helps a lot. And I get up and walk and I have 3-minute dance parties, which I think only my neighbor can see, but they're really fun. All are invited. Just 3 minutes though, then I gotta get back to work. Some things take longer, like this one took 2 weeks. So then I'll do a lot quicker one. But just try to get them done. When Finn was very young, I think that was Awake to Nap. God. That's when I came down here first, was Awake to Nap. I did a board book, which is not here. It's from Sasquatch Books. I tried to do a picture right after he was born. It took me 2 months to make the picture. And I had set myself 4 months to make my body work for my first Los Angeles show, right? I was like, I could go to Los Angeles with just one picture there and one picture there. That'd be cool, right? Or, that'd be pretty ballsy. But I had to rethink how I worked. So I worked in the span of 2 naps because I had this infant. And so the picture had to be done on the end of the second nap. So that meant sketching it and cutting it. And bam, when he woke up, it was done. I just dropped the knife. That was it, it was done. And so I did an alphabet book. It only goes A to N because I had that much time. And it was great. I love that book. Yeah, in the back.
So your X-Acto knives, how often do you sharpen your knives, or do you just get a new blade?
I just use a new blade, though. A kind old woman in her 90s gave me a sharpening stone because she had lived through that period of time. It's becoming now that time again where metal becomes more precious, and so that I would sharpen it. But I just go through this work here along this wall. I figured, okay, people ask me this question all the time: how many blades do you use? So this work here for the book end took me 82 blades. I saved them all. This work on this back wall, which is part of a book, made the star script down, took 223 blades because all those stars made the stars drift down and break your blades. It's just a little tiny turns are what cuts the blade. This work is much more linear lines, so we didn't break the blade as much. So between 82 and 223 for a project. It depends on what I'm cutting, what shapes I'm cutting. But I have that sharpening blade, the sharpening stone, and I have a blade from Japan that has this shaft of amazing, beautiful steel that I can, when the time comes, when X-Acto Corporation finally closes and steel is no longer able to be shipped around. I've also saved all my old blades, which apparently are exactly the tool you need to do scrimshaw. So if I ever want to take up scrimshaw, I'm ready for several lives. Yeah.
Well, then are you ever tempted to use another tool for stuff, like a drill for the stars, or are you strictly an X-Acto?
I'm really rigid with my rules. I have used, there are these punches from Japan that a Japanese paper cut artist gave me, and they do amazing work with it. They do like stippled, like gray, they can get grayscale by varying the whole size punch.
That Japanese people.
It's boring. It's just punch, and they're really particular. Like when you try it and show it in front of them, like no, not that way, this way, and it's like it's just. I want my rules, not your rules. And so I've only used it for something that is a man-made dot pattern on rubber boots. In Mama Is It Summer Yet? There's a book over there where the rubber boots have a polka dot pattern on them, and I used it for that. But natural things, nothing's perfect. So stars aren't circular. I mean, they are maybe out there, they're suns, right? But they're just these shapes, and if you squint your eyes, they get crazier. So I don't use punches. Any other questions?
What's that one called again?
What's this one called?
Yeah.
Thrill.
I like that one.
Yeah, I figured I'd show the future to LA. You guys may be ready for it more so than anywhere else. Yeah.
How detailed are your sketches, and do you listen to anything or while you work?
Sketches. How detailed are my sketches?
Well, no. You listen to a lot of music at work.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of music when I work. When I'm thinking of my idea, though, I don't listen to music. But when I'm rolling in the cutting, I do listen to music, and I listen to a lot of old music. Well, mostly music by my friends, people I know. So who might that be? But I was really excited when the Decemberists and Slater-Kinney both came out with new records on like the same moment, same second or something, and so I could have like some new songs to listen to. I listened to a lot of Yoda Tango. I listened to just old Olympia music like The Happening, and I listened to the Nirvana MTV one. I like that. Yeah, kind of here and there, bits and pieces. But then I also just will open the window and listen to birds for a while. They sing great songs, over and over. They're really short. I like that. They're like, they beat like any punk record. They're like the 3-second song. And then how detailed my sketches. Well, the book sketches, funny enough, are very small. They're when I get approved from the publisher, like I've spread like this picture here would be 1 inch by 2 inches sketch. So I make the little tiny sketches, and they approve it, and then I'll draw it more. I'll draw it to size what I want, and then I actually lay that down on top of graphite tracing paper and redraw it onto the black paper, and then I redraw on the black paper, and then I start cutting. But the first book I did with Abrams' books is called All in a Day. I was kind of nervous. I'd never done it before, and so I drew these sketches totally like, this is exactly what I'm going to make you. And when I got down to making it, a lot of that joy and spontaneity wasn't there for the creating of it. It's like, I'm making these pictures for that moment of making, that feeling of sitting, and it's really meditative. deciding in my brain just as black and white patterns, and the decisions made as very concentrated, focused, and meditative. And so I like to leave room for that opening, that word I want to use that's magic, but it's not magic about art, that opening up to some kind of inner communication. Does that sound really trippy?
No, I know exactly.
It doesn't feel trippy when I'm doing it.
How far have you deviated from the sketch to the final? Was there something you
Oh, a lot. I mean, things happen. I don't know. There's the decision of solid clothing or cutaway clothing, like dark or white, black or white, happens when I'm making often. But yeah, things happen. And like this one, where the giraffe is in the puddle, that was a kind of decision last minute, like, oh wait, I can show the depth of the puddle by showing it in relation to this giraffe. It's a really long neck thing, like, he's not just going to be standing there, he's going to be in, like that type of thing. I was like, oh yeah, just do that. And there's another book, I think it's Mama's at Summer Yet, where they're looking out a window, but how do you show a window, like, you're looking through a window, and so I put a snowflake in the window, because it's winter still, a cut snowflake, which is the earliest forms of paper cutting are these paper snowflakes from China. And then I did the taped it on, and then I did the serrated edge of that tape. Busy man. What questions do you have?
No, my mind's running where I am.
And it's like, if I left room for that to happen, that added. And that's the thing I love about illustrating books, especially for children, like things can happen. You can show things that aren't in the writing, because the writing is so sparse, you can show things through the pictures. If you leave room for it to happen, by leaving your sketches where it was. Yeah. Any other questions?
Do you get inspired by any paper cutting traditions, like Japanese
Well, no. I get more inspired, like I saw Kathy Kolowitz's pictures today at the Getty, and there's a World War I images exhibit up there right now. Those are really amazing. Just like her use of black. Like there's this picture of these kind of these horrors and this mother, or just a woman and solid black, and there's just this little child kind of peeking out of the skirt of the blackness, and then it's just
She does a lot
so
of
beautiful.
Mother illustrations.
Yeah, because her son died in World War I.
Yeah.
And then she's made these images to kind of understand it and come to the terms of that loss. So that inspires me more. And when I started doing it, really, I felt like, I had never seen a paper cut other than a snowflake. And I thought I was kind of like inventing a wheel, and then like, oh wait, everybody has the wheel. And there's traditions, there's Jewish traditions, there's African traditions, there's Mexican traditions, there's Japanese, there's Chinese, of course, because they started the paper idea, and all over the world. And it's a very it's a kind of an easy kind of art form in some ways, because all you need is this piece of paper. You don't need a giant block of marble or all these colors of oil paint and all this time. You can just tear the paper. You can, everybody's got scissors and a piece of paper. I mean, you could just go out on the street and find a piece of paper and turn it into something, You don't need a big studio. So it's a folk tradition throughout the whole world. And looking now, now that I know that, my style is most closely akin to a Japanese style. But when I look at my work and the Japanese work, it's different. And I think part of it is cultural, maybe. My work is a lot more intimate and personal, because that's, we tell our intimate, personal stories. And maybe there's part of that is feminist slant to that as well. But in Japan, at least the ones that I've seen are often folktale based, or they're not, or Buddhist. They're not necessarily the most personal stories that they're showing. And I don't know if anybody else has any other exposure to that and knows more. And then like a Chinese tradition, they won't cut out the face as much. But in Japanese, the face and the figure, the eyes and stuff. The Chinese is more of a silhouette based, or they'll paint it afterwards, paint in the features afterwards. So, I mean, people when they see my work, they're actually sometimes really surprised. They're hearing this white, English, Scottish, German background person that isn't 70, they either think I'm 70 years old or 80. But I don't know how. Or that I'm Asian descent. And I'm not. Or that the work that I'm doing that's just the way that the form and the structure and the paper references forms that. Yeah. This book, someone just reviewed it and was like, I really like how you don't show a gender. And I thought, that was really great, because I thought it was kind of boyish, but no. Heck, not all women have long hair. Oh yeah, not all girls have long hair, that's right. So, people see different things. Was that the answer to a question? Yeah. Well, thank you all for coming out. I think it's time we open the door. It's getting stuffy. And I just thank you for listening to me share my work. And I'm excited to see what you all make with your livings.